This is Nebraska Farmcast, a production of the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I'm Ryan Evans. The economic impact of COVID-19 has largely been felt in the livestock and poultry sectors through reduced labor supplies in processing plants, as well as some short-term market disruptions as institutional and retail demand have shifted. To understand more about how processing capacity has been affected and what that has meant for producer cash receipts here in Nebraska, I am joined by Dr. Elliott Dennis, Assistant Professor of Livestock Marketing Risk Management in the Department of Agricultural Economics here at UNL. Along with Dr. Brad Lubin, he is the co-author of a new article on our website, cap.unl.edu, which examines how this market shock has been felt in Nebraska's livestock and poultry industries. Thanks for joining me, Elliott.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.
So you have this new article on our Center for Ag Profitability website, cap.unl.edu. Let's dive into that a little bit. After several market shocks over the past few years, like processing plant fires and COVID, how has processing been affected?
Yeah, so mainly when we're talking about market shocks, we're looking at how it affects processing plants and their ability to have throughput with their animals. And so particularly we noticed this during COVID-19 when plants started to shut down through employee absenteeism, and also we started to see some plants shut down because of implementing new OSHA and CDC recommended health protocols. And some of those impacts for production capacity were for beef plants, it was about 25%. We saw a reduction in processing plant capacity. Pork was larger at 43%, and chicken plants or poultry or broiler plants, however you choose to describe them, 15%. And so that's a pretty sizable decrease in daily capacity. And really what that ends up doing is backing up animals. And when we have more animals on the market, it has an impact on both prices producers receive and also the quantity of product, meat and poultry product, that goes to consumers.
And these shocks, as you mentioned, impact consumers. So how do we determine how significant the impact from this will be for consumers?
Yeah, so economists use the term an elasticity, and really what that term is price responsiveness. And so when we look at certain segments of the beef or poultry supply chain, really what we're looking at is how sensitive are these different segments to impacts in supply or demand. And so when we look at consumers, we see that they're very price insensitive, or we call pretty inelastic. And so when we see that's both at the demand side and also the supply, especially at the producer supply level. So when we have shocks, when something's very inelastic, we can have large impacts on price because supply isn't able to adjust properly.
And there are many ways that people measure potential impact. Can you walk through your method and what you found?
Yeah, so really the objective of this study and overall was try to measure the impact on cash receipts that producers received due to COVID-19. USDA ERS releases their cash receipts database, and so essentially what they do is they look at average prices received by producers during a given year by type of commodity, and also the quantity sold. They put that all together and they publish essentially a number for cash receipts. So this has been really published since the early 2000s, so we can look at it basically historical average on what producers have received over time, and then compare it to 2020. And that's essentially what we did. We looked at real dollars, which is after adjusting for inflation. And so this gives us a true comparison of prices rather than just that steady incline in prices due to inflation. So we compared 2020 versus the 10-year average from 2010 to 2019. And really what we saw was about a 15% decline in producer cash receipts received. That's average across all the livestock products. Now, most of that is going to be contained within the cattle and calf sector that USDA defines. But there's different segments such as the trout or honey that have their own impacts.
And the government has tried to take measures to offset some impact. Can you explain how government payments have matched decreases in cash receipts for producers?
Yeah, so most producers will recognize that the government, during this time was trying to offset some of those. It seemed kind of back of the envelope at the time, as the government was trying to really estimate how can we compensate producers for this, really the shutdown in the economy that led to these different shocks, also recognizing that it was a national emergency. And so they started coming out with different payment schemes. CFAP was one of them. There was several payment schemes. And then more recently, USDA has also targeted poultry and hog producers who were also affected, and trying to compensate for that price decline, not paying them for the entire animal, but really just that price difference that we saw between what we think it should have been and what it actually was. And to both Brad and myself, surprise, these payment schemes actually matched pretty closely nominally. And so about $845 million was the potential cash receipts impact nominally, and total payments from the government for livestock, poultry, and dairy were about $838 million. So when you're talking about a government-administered policy, the biggest concern is maybe you underpay, maybe overpay. But on this larger scale, for the government to be within $7 million, that's really a rounding error for them. And Brad and myself were pretty impressed that even through all the uncertainty, that the government was able to pretty much offset total cash receipts decline, of course, on a nominal basis.
It's Dr. Elliott Dennis, Assistant Professor of Livestock Marketing Risk Management in the Department of Agricultural Economics and the Center for Ag Profitability here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. He co-authored a new article on our website for the Center for Ag Profitability at cap.unl.edu, written along with Dr. Brad Lubin here in the Center for Ag Profitability as well. So, Elliott, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.
Nebraska Farmcast is a production of the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. For the latest research-based information and education resources to manage your farm or ranch operation, visit our website at cap.unl.edu. That's cap.unl.edu.